Like every other episode of the Thousand-Year Blood War arc anime, episode 43 ended with a poem. On the screen, we see a thin rectangle with what appears to be the face of Kenpachi Zaraki, but the voice reciting the poem belongs to a woman. Not too long after the episode aired, fans started to question whether if this was the voice of Unohana as Nozarashi reciting the poem. People were confident that this was clearly adult Yachuru speaking. This reignited questions about who or what is actually within Kenpachi Zanpakuto. In this video, we're going to be piecing together the true identity of Nozarashi, what Kubo has personally confirmed on his fan club Club Outside, the hints that were buried within the manga from chapter 113 onwards, as well as information from the Can't Be Your Own World light novels which helps us to better understand Nozarashi, and why the image of Nozarashi as Unohana with pink hair has taken over the Bleach community, to the point where people are expecting to see this design of adult Nozarashi within episode 44, which is due to air this weekend. But do you know which characters from Bleach also have a Zanpakuto spirit with pink hair? These are the individuals that are subscribed to the channel. Only 20% of the people who watch these videos are subscribed, so if you enjoy the content and want to see more, then hit the bell notification icon and the subscribe button for even more Bleach content just like this. In the Thousand-Year Blood War arc, the episode usually ends with a character reciting their own poem, and that character then matters in the following episode. Askin closed out episode 41 and went on to have his confrontation with Urahara in episode 42. And similarly, Hitsugaya's poem ended episode 42 and he showed up in the back half of episode 43 to freeze Gerard solid. So when Kenpachi's turn came at the end of episode 43, we should have heard his familiar voice reciting the poem. Instead, I Will Transform This Life of Mine was delivered by a calm, mature female voice using formal archaic Japanese. The speaker refers to herself with old-fashioned, dignified pronouns, the speech of someone who has watched eras pass. Yachuru has never once spoken like that. After all, her entire character is built on childish casual speak. Whoever came up with this poem wrote it specifically to signal that an adult is speaking. And it's also worth noting that Kenpachi's actual volume poem from the manga went unused yet again, meaning this recital was an original piece created for this very moment. During the latest episode of Bleach, when Kenpachi rips off his eye patch against Gerard Valkyrie and calls out the release command of his Zanpakuto drink, Hitsugaya stares at the giant cleaver wondering when on earth Zaraki achieved Shikai, and Byakuya then reveals the bombshell that his Zanpakuto was never a constant release type after all, because no such type ever existed. Yoruichi planted this idea all the way back in the Soul Society arc. The chipped, jagged blade he carried for his entire Captain run was a sealed Zanpakuto the entire time. It's just that he didn't know the name of his blade, and without the name, a Shikai release is impossible. So who is Kenpachi Zanpakuto spirit? On the 19th of July 2021, a fan on Club Outside sent in a question which clearly caught Kubo off guard. They had pieced together that Yachuru Kusajishi might be Nozarashi, and they wanted to know how she could simultaneously be Kenpachi Zanpakuto while wielding her very own Zanpakuto Sampo Kenju. The fans' reasoning leaned on established law, pointing to cases like Hihio Zabimaru and Fuji Kujaku, where a Zanpakuto called by the wrong name couldn't demonstrate its true power, and suggesting that being named Yachuru after a real Shinigami is what let her manifest with powers of her own. So Kubo responds in question and answer 151. He states, "Whoa, amazing, it's not even written that Yachuru is Nozarashi, yet you managed to find your way here. Yachuru is a form of Nozarashi's Bankai manifestation separated from its main body, and having received her name from Kenpachi, she harbored the power of a Shinigami. The embodiment of Nozarashi itself takes the form of a grown woman. I think it's easier to understand if I got you to imagine Old Man Zangetsu and Tensa Zangetsu. So the Bankai form of Nozarashi split itself from the Zanpakuto and was walking alongside Kenpachi within the Soul Society for years. Because it was given a name from Kenpachi, this is what granted this fragment of Nozarashi genuine Shinigami power. Kubo also confirms that the main version of Nozarashi, so the one that we would see when Kenpachi is in his Shikai form, it is in fact a grown woman that we have never seen before. And the comparison to Zangetsu makes it crystal clear. In question and answer 419 on Kubo's fan club, a fan wondered whether if it was deliberate foreshadowing of Yachiru being Nozarashi, when in chapter 113 we see a nameless infant crawl up to Zaraki in the Kusajishi district, where he asks where she came from. Kubo confirms that the fan is correct, that this was deliberate foreshadowing. Zaraki never received a Zanpakuto through the Shinigami Academy. As a boy, he pulled his sword off a dead Shinigami's body and imprinted his own soul onto it. Kubo spoke about inherited Zanpakuto in question and answer 238, saying that the soul essence is generally overwritten when a new wielder takes on a Zanpakuto, and in question and answer 509, he confirmed that the previous owner would never have developed anything resembling Nozarashi's ability, because abilities are overwritten before Shikai is acquired. The woman in Kenpachi's sword is not some stranger's leftover imprint. She is the reflection of Zaraki's own soul. When Kenpachi is lying half dead beneath Gerard in chapter 668, he is visited by what looks like his missing lieutenant, telling him that if he uses her properly, there is nobody he cannot cut, pressing a hand to his and naming the power flooding out of him to be Bankai. 2 chapters later, she's apologizing because she released too much at once and Kenpachi's body paid the price with an arm. Now, the poem at the end of episode 43 was not actually read by Unohana's voice actress. Aya Hisakawa was not involved, neither was Hisayo Mochizuki, which is Yachiru's longtime voice actress. The voice actress reading the poem was Natsuko Kuwatani, the same voice actress who delivered Nozarashi's very first words back in the 10th episode of the Thousand-Year Blood War arc anime. She is the official voice actress of Nozarashi. It can be confusing as there's 3 different women here voiced by 3 different voice actresses. There's a considerable amount of overlap between each of them and how they are all linked to Kenpachi. Loads of people heard a voice that objectively is not Unohana's and still heard Unohana. This is because the person that Kenpachi admires the most ever since he was a child was Unohana, so it should come as no surprise that this is who is imprinted onto his Zanpakuto as Nozarashi. Unohana was the first Kenpachi and the founding captain of Squad 11. We all know she was the most diabolical criminal within the history of the Soul Society until Yamamoto recruited her into his original Gotei 13. Her true name was Yachiru Unohana, not Unohana Retsu. She encountered the nameless Kenpachi Zaraki wandering the streets of Rukongai, and after briefly battling with him, he became the first ever person to wound her. He was responsible for that scar that we see on Unohana's chest, while Unohana was responsible for the scar that we see over Kenpachi's eye. It was the first time in Kenpachi's life that he felt true fear, and it was the first fight that he ever enjoyed. Midway through this battle, he subconsciously sealed his own strength in order to keep the feeling from ending. Now, this cost him the fight against Unohana, as she then spent the following centuries as a healer under the name Retsu, while Kenpachi continued to subconsciously limit himself in order to match the strength of whichever opponent was in front of him, for the sole purpose of prolonging battles to make them more enjoyable. He named the infant who came to him and showed no fear of his blade Yachiru after the one person that he truly admired. In question and answer 598 on Kubo's official fan club, a fan asked Captain Unohana named herself Yachiru, but her current name Retsu, is that originally her real name, or is it that after becoming Yachiru she named herself once again, this time to Retsu? Kubo responds by saying Retsu is the name given to her by her father. So Yachiru, meaning master of 8,000 different sword styles, was a name that Unohana later adopted, with Retsu appearing to be her family name. On Shunsui's orders, Unohana takes Kenpachi beneath the Seirei to Muken as she trains him by killing him repeatedly and then healing him once he's at the brink of death each time thanks to her Bankai Minazuki. This gradually peels away the subconscious limitations that he had placed upon himself. This training process wraps up with the death of Unohana at Kenpachi's hands. Chapter 527 begins with the immediate aftermath, where a voice that he has never heard in his life says, "I, who have been by your side longer than anyone, closer than any other, always watching over you, it is a pleasure to meet you, Kenpachi Zaraki. My name is." So the woman who helped to place those limitations on him dies, and in the very same breath, a woman that he could never hear before now becomes audible to him. So this is exactly why fans have become so receptive to this artwork of Unohana with pink hair as the true form of Nozarashi. the adult version of Yachiru. The light novels also provide precedent for a Zanpakuto spirit borrowing a meaningful face, since the 8th Kenpachi Soya Azashiro had a Zanpakuto spirit that took on the appearance of his dead sister. Now, since we haven't really seen the true design of Nozarashi, we can't say for certain whether if it echoes Unohana. This theory of the true appearance of adult Nozarashi definitely has a lot of merit. In question 637 on Kubo's fan club Club Outside, a fan speaks about a song from rock musical Bleach, wondering whether if Tear of the Edge that Kubo wrote for Kenpachi during the time when the manga was still in the Arrancar arc and there was no hint of Kenpachi's backstory with Unohana, did the musical request a scene with Unohana and Kenpachi, and was there already a plan to reveal their relationship in the manga later? Kubo responds by saying that yes, rock musical Bleach requested a scene with Unohana and Kenpachi, so Kubo thought that it would be interesting to do something that would make sense later on, and this was well before the release of chapter 520 of Bleach, so you can see how Kubo's been foreshadowing the nature of Kenpachi and his relationship with Yachiru and Unohana for so many years. Episode 44, The Perfect Crimson, is releasing on the 15th of August, and it's hopefully going to be adapting content from chapters 668 onwards. This hopefully means that Kenpachi's Bankai is finally going to be adapted into the anime, this much is guaranteed. But I wonder just how much anime exclusive content is going to be weaved into Kenpachi's Bankai reveal. Fans are wondering whether if we're going to see the true form of Nozarashi in the anime. During the Calamity preview screenings in June, we had an interview where Kubo confirmed that he personally checked all of the designs for the new 1000-Year Blood War arc anime. He also teased that a brand new character for the final season who never existed within the manga is going to appear, so fans have convinced themselves that this mysterious character could be adult Nozarashi. The poem that was read at the end of episode 43 does somewhat back this up. We see a picture of Kenpachi, but a totally different character's voice is reading the poem out loud. With the voice actress of adult Nozarashi reading the poem, it is very likely that we're going to see her design appear within episode 44. Frankly, even if the anime shows us nothing within episode 44 and keeps her faceless, the poem already sparked this incredible discussion within the community, which led to all of this amazing fan art of Nozarashi. We have reached the point of the video where I want to hand over the discussion to all of you. Should the anime commit to showing adult Nozarashi's face, or is she better off being left unseen? With fans speculating that she could take on the appearance of Unohana with pink hair, a grown-up version of Yachiru. Or do you disagree and think that Nozarashi will have a unique appearance of her own? Do let me know by continuing the discussion in the comments, and lastly, thanks for making it to the end of this one, and I look forward to seeing you in my next Bleach video.
A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.